got everything shut down here that I wanted. Oh, give me a second here. Let's go to the streams app. What side I want to go there? I want to go here. Okay. Righty. Okay. Okay, if anybody's around, can you hear me? I don't know if the audio levels are good or bad or what. Just let me know. Yeah, sorry. Had a pretty busy week last week. I wanted to stream, but just had to put out a few fires at the office. Unfortunately, meant I was working from like 7 a.m. in the morning, so didn't really get any free time. And anybody who's around already, I pretty much just want to look at work I've been doing up until a few weeks ago to see where we are at, where we need to go. And yeah, just apologize for not being able to stream for the last few weeks. Just yeah, between vacation and work, it was a little difficult. Uh, okay, yeah, pretty much just catch up on previous work and plan for future streams. First is going to be reviewing notes, reviewing change lists to see what we've done, etc., etc., etc. Yeah. And yeah, just feel free to ask any questions or chat or whatnot. But yeah, I'm just going to be looking through this stuff right now. So it's going to be more of a casual stream, nothing crazy. Okay. So I know just the general context of what we're doing. We're trying to work on getting the collision system implemented, right? But it was hard for us to write a collision system outside of actually having any kind of data flow, like actually having that hitbox data be readable by the system, uh, readily. But as probably come up before, a lot of our work has been around memory management and making sure that we're not allocating memory on the fly or reducing that. So we did things such as implement temporary storage for the system to keep track of the hitboxes actually is going to work on, because we don't want to be pulling all the hitboxes in, right, from every single action and every single frame. We only want the active hitboxes. And I think we made progress on that just looking through here during our execute function. So while we commented this out, pre-processing step generated hitboxes used to, we want to write generate hitboxes used to actually check collision. Yeah. So we did have a while loop here. I think I was going to try to change to some kind of for loop. I forgot the thing we were stuck with. Yeah, basically we're translating hitboxes here. That was, I think, where we're at. We needed to translate hitbox function, which would take our hitbox coordinates and offset them by the character coordinate, character current position, right? We're not actually using it yet other than this commented code. And I think what we did was, we didn't even implement it here. I thought we were testing, right? Okay. Yeah, so we got to the point, I believe, where we needed to actually pull in hitbox data, right? And but even to do that, we needed some kind of structure to store our hitboxes in our persistent memory. And not to jump around too much, well, we're just reviewing stuff. Before I start working, I like to review all the work we've done to now. I am the FGC goat. Oh, thank you, Sanji. Much appreciated. I'm not doing much fighting game stuff other than this right now, but maybe in the future, if I can find a good partner to work with on a new fighting game, that'd be great. But at the moment, that's on hold. Let's see. Okay, getting back into context. So our game simulation, what do we have? We have our game data, which stores hitbox group. This was temp data. We're going to remove this. We probably can remove it now, but we'll get to that. Planning. Yeah. Hold on. Let me just write that down here. Okay. Just so I don't forget about it. My short-term memory is limited. Okay. Yeah, so we had that. Then we had the character data, which was of type character properties. Can we go to the definition of this? And what do we have in there? Right now we have the max health, because this is persistent stuff. It's not things that change on the fly. A list of actions. And currently, each action has vulnerable hitboxes, attack hitboxes. And each of those, and it gets initialized in the init function with a explicit allocator that we have to pass in. We do that so that we have precise control over memory and when things get freed. And I do want to, at some point, I do want to like delve into that allocator implementation itself a little bit more, so we understand that to a deep level, so we know, we know what's actually going on with memory there. Okay, and within each action, we do have the hitbox groups, and a single hitbox group will have a list of hitboxes they're not fixed size arrays, but dynamically resizable arrays. We're only doing that so we can actually edit them on the fly. There is a world where we just keep a fixed size array that's allocated to a very precise size on initialization for the actual runtime data structure. At the moment, we don't necessarily need that, so we're just going to stick with the array we can use to increase the size during editing or writing tests, that kind of thing, because we'll be adding the one at a time, not all at once, right, if we have an editor. That's just future planning there for that, and well, we need it for the test as well, so it's actually things we're doing now, but I digress. But yeah, so Man, I need to fix these brackets. I wonder if there's a way for me to write custom formatting configurations for Zig so that when I hit Control KF, I don't get this. But anyway, this is fine. Keep it this way for now. Yep, so we just allocate the hitboxes here in the hitbox group. That's fine. And then what did we do? So we wrote these. Let's look at the comment.zig file. Where is that? Let's just go to our source code here. Yeah, so wow, it's been 20 days since we modified this. Okay, so we didn't make any modifications there. So basically, we just wrote in comment.zig a function to get the vulnerable boxes. We haven't wrote one for getting the attack boxes yet. We haven't got to that point. And all we did was loop through all the vulnerable boxes and see if it's active on the current frame. So we had to write a utility function within hitbox group that just checks to see if the hitbox group is active for a particular frame. It's not that complicated function. We could easily oh yeah, it doesn't jump to that. I don't think it understands that kind of syntax sugar yet. But do we make? Oh, I did make changes to this. We wrote a test for that, of course, so we know that works. Well, we know it works too, as much as far as we tested, I guess. But yeah, we wrote that utility function to see if a hitbox is active on a particular frame, and then we loop through all the hitboxes. We wrote this pull index to make sure it's hitbox pull that length. This is just an assert to make sure that. Wait, so we didn't even need that anymore? Oh, we are looping through the pull index. Oh yeah, so the pull index is our current offset into our pull that we're using for the temporary hitboxes that are going to be actually used to process collisions, right? That has a fixed size because we don't want to be allocating memory on the fly each frame for the total number of hitboxes. So we're going to have a check for that. Right now we're just putting in the cert. We could have a runtime check, which we do here. So we're going to limit how many hitboxes can be processed each frame. Now, the plan is to make it large enough so it doesn't actually ever matter. That would overrun over it, but we want to assert just in case, right? Well, I mean, we probably would put some, maybe in the future, it would be replaced with error messages so that designers, right? This is one of the things that you should think about too when you're writing code that's going to be used by other people on your team. You want to create things that will point out issues with the data that they're working with, right? A designer maybe, for in this case, oh, somehow it's so many hitboxes, or they've created a situation with so many collisions happening that exceeds the memory that we've pre-allocated, right? We'd like to warn them about that so that they can make those changes, or they can come to us and say, okay, we need you to extend the size of the number of hitboxes that would be supported during a collision check, right? So that's something to keep in mind, is always make it possible. When problems don't be silent about it, right? We want to be loud as possible. Now, there is an issue here, is you don't want asserts going off, say, maybe like in test builds or anything like that, or even like dev builds, because often QA will be working with dev builds. And if they're constantly getting asserts because the designer or somebody else on the team made some bad data, it's just going to completely interrupt their work for the day. And that sucks. Nobody wants that, right? And it's going to slow down the project, all that kind of stuff. So these things you should keep in mind. Anyway, going on here, a little bit of a digression. Okay. Yep, so we just, within here, we're translating the hitboxes. We're not actually calling that translate hitbox function that I wrote. I forgot why we didn't do that. Anyway, it might just been mistake on my end. So we wrote that translation hitbox function and we didn't use it. Why do we do that? Well, did we test again to get vulnerable hitboxes? Okay, cool. So going back to that function we wrote, where was that? Was it here? Oh, I remember why, because we put the translate hitbox function in the collision system, right? We didn't use it anywhere here. So I'm just going to go ahead and move. Well, I don't want to start anything yet. So let's just write down our notes real quick. So we need to move the translate hitbox function from the collision system to the common code. Okay. Let's do that. Where's our planning document? By the way, does anybody know a shortcut key for quick swapping between files you're working with? Oops, I didn't want to do that. Yeah. I know it's like a control tab thing. Oh, that's it, control tab. That's what I wanted. Okay. So move. Anyway, there we go. So where does this put us? Okay, so we got and tested this get vulnerable hitbox function, right? Did we review all this? Yeah, we want to replace this with the translate function because we might use that more than one place. This is fine as well, I think. Okay, so make sure everything's okay. I'm just gonna review. Has anybody said anything here on Twitter to make sure everything's okay? Cool. Anywho, I wonder what's going on here. Okay. Yeah, so we wrote a test for this get vulnerable hitbox thing. So this says test getting translated hitbox from action. Okay, that's what it does, I believe. Ultimately, what we're testing. Well, we test the size, I guess. Number of hitboxes available. We test to see if it's active on a particular frame. And we set it up that way to be on that frame. So I think, anyway, if we really want to be precise about this, we probably should say, so we have a particular frame set, we get it on, so we need to make sure that it's actually active on the frame that we asked for. We could change this value in the future or whatever. I'm just going to run the test real quick to make everything works. Okay. So we make sure it's active on this frame. If we change the frame, it might fail, right? Let's just say 10. I don't know if that's the case, but oh, because we set to 50, right? So if we set it to 100, it's not going to be. The test should fail, right? Okay. Yeah, so the test failed. Expected the count to be 1. The count was probably 0. That's what I assume it was. So that's fine. Okay. Let's put it back to 5. Alrighty. There we go. Where are we at? I need to check something real quick. Okay. Alrighty. So then we just checked to make sure the hitbox was offset the way we expected to be, right? That's what we did there. So where does this put us? It puts us in a situation where we can get hitboxes from the character data. At least for the vulnerable boxes. We don't have one for the attack boxes yet. So we can't technically complete our collision system yet. We need for both. I don't necessarily just want to copy paste this code and basically do the same thing twice, but maybe there's some way to write a generic function in Zig that lets me just reuse it for both hitboxes. They're the same type, right? They're just stored in different locations. So I could technically pass in the hitbox group, right? Instead of calling get vulnerable hitboxes, I can call something get hitboxes, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So okay, let's write in our planning real quick something. I want to write, so what do we need to do? Oops. So we implement function for getting active attack boxes with an offset. Well, not with an offset. Okay. Just to review this a little bit more, the way we end up allocating memory for the hitboxes is we had to make some action properties, right? So we made an action. Make sure the actions vulnerable hitboxes were initialized at the end of the scope. We appended a hitbox group onto that action. It's interesting. So we did everything here is at the action level. We're not testing the full character data scope. So we still need to append actions onto a character, right? Have we done that anywhere yet in any of our tests? So we test resizable arrays here. That's fine, whatever. Test active frame. So we have no test for that, I think. Let's go down here. Let's see what we have. So we have tests for setting up game data. But at this point, we basically just create the game data, made these test hit boxes. That's all we did. But so we need to test creating character data, right? Not just hitboxes. Because if we go to our game simulation here, we can look at the game data. It uses characters. Hold on. Is there find all references? There we go. So no references for this, right? Even if we just search. Whoops. Oh, that's not going to work very well for us. Dot characters. Whoops. Oh, so we did do something. Oh, we had initialized game data. So we could technically test this function actually directly. Oh, we did here. Okay, so we did test initializing it, but we didn't test, sorry, we did initialize it, but we did not test to see if we get the expected value and the expected yeah, we didn't test everything to a deep enough level that we could get to the point where we're actually adding hitboxes to a character in the game simulation itself. But with that, I'm gonna get some water. I'll be right back. Just talk for about 25 minutes straight. Okay. Let's see if it's raining. Yep, still raining. Okay, let's go. What do we do here? So yeah, so what do we when we precise what we want to be precise about what we want to do. Okay. You want to test allocating character data, adding action. So that's one thing we want to write a test for, right? We want to make sure that it seems incredibly simple, but one thing I do like about having all these tests is it documents what we've done, right? What we've got working. So when we're going back reading the code, we can remember where we're at, where we need to go, what has been done, right? And the tests are just a great way to indicate that. Can't keep everything in our working memory, right? We need something on page here. And if we have to read the code itself every time, like the actual code that does the work during executing the game, that's a huge burden each time, right? I mean, people do become domain experts in a particular code base, and they're able to quickly jump in after a long time, right? But we have an actively changing code base here, right? That the structure is constantly being rewritten in a lot of places, so it's kind of hard to do that. And also, I want other people who are not necessarily already involved in following this project to easily be able to jump in and like, okay, what's done here? Okay, here's the test. This is what this does. Now, the question is, with this particular test is, we could do something such as manually setting up and allocating all that persistent data within the test itself, or we can use a utility function that's already set up, such as the one here, right? The initialize game. So this one, right? Oh, where is it? This one. Yeah, so here we didn't actually run this function, but this is the function that actually does allocation, right? And we pass an allocator. So we could just call this function that to do our initialization. Now the issue here, this is not robust enough for what we actually want to do. Obviously we're getting rid of this hitbox group thing, but right now we're only allocating an array to store our character data. We're not actually adding characters to that array, right? It's just the array itself. The array, let's call it array list, so we can be very precise about what we're doing in Zig. We don't get confused with things like arrays in C, or the static arrays that are allocated to a fixed size, or even slices, which do exist in Zig as well. So yeah, we need to add elements to the array list first. So you know what? Let's go ahead and do this. We already have this test function for the name of the game data. The first thing let's do is let's run a test on this file. Make sure it's still running. All the tests are passing. So all the tests are passing. Great. So the first thing I want to do is get rid of this hitbox group test code. We don't need it anymore. Oops. And yeah, this test data, we're getting rid of this. We don't need to test that anymore. So that means we can go here and delete that code. We don't need this. That's a static size one. We're not using the static size anymore. Unused local variable. That's right. So we need to do something temporarily. So technically, this code doesn't really test anything yet at the moment. Is my keyboard in English? Oh yeah. Constantly switching between the US and Japanese keyboard, it throws me off. So this just means that we don't use this variable. We have to be explicit about it. Okay, test pass. Let's go here real quick. What have we done? We've made, let's look at this. I just want to say remove test data. Yeah. I like submitting small changes, so I'm just going to say removed test data. Fine. Check that. Okay, good. Back to what we're doing. Okay, so that's removed. Now we need to write a proper test. Well, before we even do that, what are we actually doing? We need to be precise about that, right? Very clear and explicit. So, character data with action hitbox data. So we need to add a new character. And so far, I don't think we've actually allocated a character yet. So we might actually want to write a test for that. But yeah. Where have we used the character properties? Is this find that real quick. So we have this game data here. We initialize it in this function, and then we do it in the test. So I don't want to do that here. Okay, I was going to do initialize game data. So instead of this, I want to call, oops, hold on. It's just as a normal allocator, right? Yeah. So that should pass, that should run. I need to set up a key binding to run tests. Hitbox group. Oh, yeah, we need to get rid of that. I hate this. Okay. Anyway, yeah. So test should pass maybe, or not. Okay. So going back to our tests, there should be an outline here. Whoops. Hold on. I thought it was an outline view. Anything for us? Oh, outline's here. Okay, here's outline. My brain not function. So, it's kind of interesting looking at that real quick. Okay. So we've initialized the game data structure itself. Now we need to add a character. In the past, how have we added things to array lists? Well, we can look at our other tests, right? So we have things like append. I think append, yeah. So we have to write code that's like this, right? Something like make sure the data is valid, and then we have to append. Oh, so we tested it here technically. That's interesting. Okay. So we this code doesn't really do anything here because we're not actually doing anything on the characters, but I digress. We should come back and do something here. Yeah, hold on. Okay. So I don't have to worry about that. Put it on the back burner. Okay. So yeah, let's go back to this. So this is pretty much what we want to do, is something like this to allocate a new character. Over here in the front. So we don't have a game state, we just have game data. Now game data, I don't know if it's a pointer or whatnot. Yeah, we have to make sure this is valid. So we try to make a new character. Oh wait. Give me a second. No. Yeah, okay, and then we add it to the characters. The characters data gets initialized here. Okay. And then we're just gonna test. Oh, it's not just you can't just write test. But yeah, we need something like this. We just test the size is equal to 1. Now there's something here about Zig that I want to verify later to see if it works like I think it works. But anyway, yeah, it should be size 1, not the collision system, but it should be game data characters. Oops. Actually, is this gonna work? Give me a second here. So we're just making sure that the items are length 1 here. We had a redeclaration of game data. Hold on. Oh, I see. That's the problem. Well, hold on. I know that probably doesn't work or something like that. Ah, gotcha. So let's just get rid of this. I don't think we need this in this case. Okay, so it passes. Now this technically could fail, right? But just moving on from there. This is character 1. Let's just try character 2. Let's add 2 characters, just for nice testing purposes. And then the thing I want to know about Zig, I'm not sure, like, these are handles to memory, right? It's all allocated within the allocator. Sorry, the allocator itself keeps track of it, but I don't know enough about the array list. Like, does the array list keep pointers to items like the STL vector type in C++? Anyway, that's a digression a little bit. Not vector type, but okay. I still need to learn some stuff about Zig. I feel a little uncomfortable not knowing exactly what's going on in some areas of it. Okay, so we're going to add that. The test should fail because we've added 2. 2 passed, 1 failed. So we need to add 2 there. It should pass now. Okay, so we've tested adding character data. Cool. But we need to also test adding actions. Well, let's just do. We're probably going to break all this code into something. Break this code out into something that's more generic, right? Like this part, the initializing stuff, so that we can reuse it in multiple tests. Anyway, for now, I'm just going to do this. I'm not actually going to test multiple character creation here. I'm just going to do this. We don't actually test this part, but we want to add actions. So the first thing to do is, well, so we're going to add an action. So action is going to be equal to something like a oops, what is it? Action. Yeah, action properties init with an allocator, right? We've had that comment set up before, and then we should be able to add it to the character like. So try game data dot characters dot items element 1 dot I think it's actions, and dot append our action, right? That should work. And then instead of game data characters dot, it should be characters dot items 0 dot actions dot items. This should be equal to 1, right? Character 2. Where's character 2 at? 126. Oops, that should be the sets. Okay. Okay. So okay. So we should make this fail by changing the size to 0 or whatever. The following test command failed with exit code 0. It's kind of hard to read the output of this a little bit, but anyway. Test adding an action to character test. Fail. Test unexpected result. Yep. Okay. So it's back to 1. Everything should clear out. Test just fine. Okay, so we've added an action. Called the steps of adding an action. And we can go one step farther to add hitboxes to the action that's on the character. It gets a little, I don't know the right word for it, but maybe unnecessary. I don't know. But we'll be right back. Just need to get a breather. Is it raining still? Okay. I'm back. Actually, is anybody actually watching? That's a good question. I got a few people. So yeah, I'm thinking about this a little bit more. How I'm using tests here is not necessarily like, it's not for the purpose of testing functionality that we set up already. Like, yeah, these functions that we've set up in Net, it's basically testing these functions, right? But it's more for like learning how our pipeline for setting up data in this game. We're just trying to try things out and see which direction we want to go in for that part, right? Yeah. So, because we want to get to the point where we want to make adding data to the game really easy and straightforward. We want to set up a pipeline for that. We want to test that pipeline, just so we know it works correctly. So we're not spending all our time debugging that aspect of it, right? We just want to get that done and working so that we can move on with actual gameplay functionality stuff as soon as we can. I'm just thinking a little bit about which direction I want to go in here. Just jumping back here. Okay, we'll just keep running forward at this point, just to give us some time to think about stuff. So now let's just add hitbox data action. Test adding action with hitboxes to a character. Okay, so we want to do all the same things here, but then we want to add hitboxes. Okay, so each action should already have a hitbox group set up by the init. By the init function. We probably look at it here if we go to character data. Yeah. So yeah, the vulnerable and attack boxes get initialized, or at least the hitbox group gets initialized. So we can go ahead and start adding hitboxes to each group. Well, we can make a group and do that. So I think we've done something here already, where we've created a hitbox group. Let's actually initialize that. I want to test that. You know what? Let's look for. Okay. Actually, open any of those things right now. Let's just go back to game simulation. So anything, we'll do something like this. So we need a hitbox group, and it'll just be just as we've seen before, like hitbox group. Let's init it with an allocator. Wait, give me a second here. Yeah, I think that's what we want to do. Because we have a function for that, right, in our character data. Oops. Our hitbox group has an init function, which basically just sets up the hitboxes. Cool. So we have that array initialized if we do that. Okay. And then we can just add the hitbox group, just as we've done before, something like this, right? Instead of the actions that I pin, we need to do like actions, items, 0, dot, not even that, we need maybe vulnerable hitboxes, right? And we need a pin, not an action, but a hitbox group. So we know we have a hitbox group here, and then we can test that. We're probably gonna do multiple tests here, or we can like aggregate everything here, but I digress. Okay. So items there, we have the first item in the group, and then we get vulnerable. Oh, I hit the wrong key. Vulnerable hitboxes, and we need to do items. Yeah, items. Was it items dot num? No. Ooh, my brain just items dot length. Okay. So we've added one hitbox. No, one hitbox group, and the length is gonna be equal to 1. Okay. There's no what? There's no vulnerable boxes. What is it talking about? Oh, called vulnerable hitbox groups. My mistake. Okay. All 5 tests pass. Okay. And then let's add. So we need to allocate a hitbox now. Okay. So var hitbox equals try character data dot hitbox dot init allocator. Actually, do we need? I don't know if the hitbox has anything special about that. No, I'm just saying things, so don't mind me too much anything. My brain not working too good. Yeah, so it's just a plain struct. So there's no init we need to do on it. We just need to append. Okay. We need to append on it. So How are we doing it out here? Okay, we're not even testing anything great there. Yeah, so we don't have to do anything super weird or special here. We just need to do something like this. It's getting ridiculous. We need to, yeah. Anyway, we'll clean this all up a bit later. We don't need a append here. So we need to do groups of items, and then we need to do the first item, and then hitboxes dot append. I think we can just have. I think we had a default. Let's just go hitbox character. Yeah, that hitbox to be more clear about what we're doing here. Okay, and then we need to test this. So I think we are learning a little bit about this way of going about things by just going through this exercise, right? Or I may have no clue what I'm talking about. Okay, yeah, so items, oops. Group of items, 0. It's gonna be the first item, dot hitboxes, dot items, dot length. Okay, yeah. It gets quite hairy with this many layers of hierarchy. I think that's a good lesson to know, like, just think about code complexity, right? So let's just add 2 hitboxes. So the length should be 2 to be valid. Okay. All right, so we've tested adding characters, adding a character with action with hitboxes, at least vulnerable boxes. So we could do something like this, right? I went to this exercise so we can just think about, like, when we want to start testing code or start testing real data for our game, we obviously don't want to go through this manual practice of allocating hitboxes for a character in this way. It is just way too much code, too easy to make mistakes. So you want to automate this in some way, right? We want to make some utility functions for quickly adding in hitboxes to a character, just for both for testing purposes in our final pipeline. Something like we tell it, you know, for the action A, add hitboxes on frames 5 through 8 with these dimensions, right? That's something we want to do. Or we'll just have like a big list of hitboxes with their properties set somewhere, either for now in Zig, but then eventually offline in some text data. It's like load up these hitboxes, right? So I'm trying to think, is there any kind of tricks or anything nice we can make kind of like a domain specific language, or just something that's like, I've seen examples where you can kind of like put JSON inside of Zig, if I'm thinking about the right language, just for having a file with our game data, right? Just like we had the file with our actions, our game states. So then we'll have to do like a lot of what's going on here, right? Here, I'm pointing over here because it's like for you guys, it's over here. Yeah. So I think ultimately what we want to do is that. So I'm going to go ahead and just. So we've done that. We've checked that off as being complete. Just going to put that up here. Remove test effects from game district. I'm just put that off as being complete. Just for posterity's sake, I don't actually we need this information, but just so that we know what we've done. X for me just means complete. So yeah, eventually we want to create a bunch of data, and the only way we're going to be able to do that is not through the way we've done these tests. We're going to have some kind of data structure that's easy to fill out, and this gets loaded automatically. We need to make the functions for loading those things automatically. I'm sorry about the huge roundabout we need to go around to get to the point where we're actually testing collisions, but ultimately the collision testing part isn't hard. It's not for this kind of game. It's just the data pipeline is the thing that's annoying, and we got to get that out of the way, you know. But once we've done that, we can just like run full speed. So I know it's like slow acceleration into getting stuff done, but I think it's the only way you can kind of go about it. Otherwise, you're just writing a bunch of stuff you got to delete anyway, because it doesn't work within a data pipeline that's actually going to be used by your game. So we didn't do any of this yet. Yeah, we didn't do that either. Okay, the stuff we didn't do. Just checking back on that. Just thinking about more, okay, so if we're actually going to make these, this code that takes some readable structure with or some kind of description of hitboxes within actions and actions within character. So how are we going to do that? I kind of like the idea of using the JSON within Zig model. I've seen that before. Somebody doing some tricks with that. I think if we went to the Zig homepage, or maybe I'm thinking of a completely different language. Honestly, oh no, here it is. It's on the upfront page. So I guess the issue here is the payload is stored as comments. If we just made it text files, we could load it in probably no problem. That does mean we'll have non-Zig files for our tests when we're writing tests. But yeah. So you could have a payload like this. It gets loaded into so I guess it wasn't this language. I was thinking you could have like domain specific stuff that looks like JSON, or maybe it is, but you know. This is simple, just like loading in a string. That's all this is doing. It's parsing it. And it fills it out into the structure, I guess, because you can see testing production is both would be keys within JSON, but ends up just being properties here on the struct. But it's pretty straightforward to set up that kind of parser, or sorry. Obviously, there's error checking and stuff like that. It's not being done here. It's going to be a very high level, not ever precise. But maybe the parser does stuff like that. I don't know. Okay. But this could be a quick way for us to set up data, though, to be honest, because I do. So they're not showing. Interesting here is they're not showing any kind of like resizable data structure or even like an array, right? So I wonder how the parser handles that. This is something you have to think about, because we're gonna have to have arrays of actions, arrays of hitbox groups, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So those things. Yeah. So that's one way you could go about it, is just having a JSON descriptor file. but it might have to be a temporary structure that then we write code to load it from that structure. In super ideal world, well, not ideal world, but one way we could think about it is serializing the data directly into our into the. Let me start over. You can think about it reading the JSON directly into the struct, because you see here, it looks like the token. I guess because of the magic of Zig compile time stuff, somehow it knows the layout of the structure and is able to load everything from the JSON directly into it. I don't know if that would work for us because of the nature of the allocators we're using and stuff like that. I would have to read more into it. The other way to go about it is have a secondary hierarchy, right, of just kind of temporary structs that are used for only loading in the data. Then we could read it somewhere else into our runtime data structure. That's one way to do it. Or we could try to do it directly. Again, I'm not sure how exactly it's going to work, but yeah, it's something we need to think about. And I don't know if I want to go into this rabbit hole. Well, not today for sure, but yeah, we do need to think about this part, and I think that's like the next big challenge here. And again, I apologize for not getting directly to the point with the collision stuff, but it's not that, I don't think that part is that difficult. It's this whole data pipeline. I think about the data first and how it's handled in the game engine. So anyway, sorry, we didn't make much progress. I think I just announced we're just gonna like chat a little bit and do some planning. So I think that's gonna be about it for me today. But I do appreciate anybody who did drop by, and I will post in our, give me a second here. So for anybody who doesn't know, who happens to be here for the first time, thank you for coming by. We do have a Discord group. I'm going to post that in the chat. And we have an ongoing GitHub project here. I'm going to share that in the chat as well for anybody who has not seen it before. Yeah, and if you just want to follow, sync up, go ahead. I'll probably commit this code sometime today. I want to do more streams this week. I'm just trying to get the ball rolling. So I apologize for not having stuff going on the last few weeks. But yeah, again, thanks for dropping by. I hope everybody who's out in the States has a good evening. Still morning time out here in Japan land. Maybe it's way too early for y'all out in Europe, but or anywhere else in that part of the planet, I guess. But yeah, again, much appreciated for anyone who drops by. Feel free ask any questions in the future. Just chat. I definitely appreciate when questions are asked and the opportunity to answer anything you're curious about. But yeah, with that, I think I'm gonna cut off the stream. Again, thanks for dropping by. Hope to see you all soon. For now, peace out. See ya.